Even though I've been at Apple for 36 years, I'm still learning every day. We're still organized like if we were a small company. One of my favorite things that I get to do is to see the new products and help decide what those new products are.
Do you watch anything on YouTube?
I watch a ton of YouTube. I love what Apple Intelligence is going to do because it makes the product and everything that we do better.
Eddy Cue is Apple's Senior Vice President of Services. He's been with Apple for 36 years, and he's been instrumental in creating the Apple Online Store, the iTunes Store, and the App Store, and currently oversees the full range of Apple's services, including Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, and Apple Podcasts. He was in London for a few days, so I took the opportunity to talk to him about his time at Apple, all things services, and the future with Apple Intelligence. Here's the full interview. I hope you enjoy.
We've got everything.
We're doing this in spatial?
Well, we've got plenty of cameras.
So you got plenty of cameras, absolutely.
Yeah. Eddie, welcome to the channel, and thank you for bringing the California weather to London.
I assumed it was always like this. So beautiful and everything, but it's a real pleasure to be here with you. I was very excited about doing this.
Thank you so much. I was saying, I wish it was always like this. Like, if we just had a remote control, we could just change the beautiful background here just to be sunny all the time. Lovely, lovely to have you. I've got so much to talk about, but the question I ask all my guests first is around daily drivers. It's a term that we use in the YouTube tech world, and it's about the devices that you use every day. So, which iPhone are you currently using?
15 Pro Max.
15 Pro Max. Color?
It's white.
Okay, titanium.
No cover.
Okay.
Because I like holding it in the thinness.
You want to feel that titanium.
That's right.
And what about your iPad and MacBook?
No. Well, let's do some headphones first.
Okay.
I just got the new Beats. We did these cool Beats headphones now that are tiny.
Yes.
They're really, really small because the pack doesn't have any battery, so it kind of disappears in your pocket. So, which are quite cool. iPad, probably the device. In some ways, I probably use the most.
Okay.
And I have the new iPad Pro, the 12-inch, incredibly thin, but I love that device because I consume a lot now doing TV and movies. I get to even watch that for work.
Amazing. You just always
Which
tuned
is
in.
crazy. Never thought that was going to happen when I was doing my computer science degree, that I'd get to watch movies and TV for work.
Amazing. That's the best. It's the dream. And for your Mac?
That's a good one. I have a MacBook Air 15-inch. That's probably my primary. But in my office, I have a Mac Studio at home with a big screen.
I think you're pretty much you've got the same setup as Tim. Because just a couple of weeks ago at DubDub, I asked him, and he was iPhone 15 Pro Max. He had the iPad Pro.
I think he's 15 Pro, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure he's Max, but
okay.
We'll have to check. I'll have to check on him. He might have changed, but yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, obviously those are some of our, if not best products.
Yeah, top of the line.
we like using our best stuff.
Of course. Now, I was just looking over your bio, and there's a lot of services here. So I'm just going to go through some of so overseeing full range of Apple services.
I think you're calling me old.
No, I'm just, I was like looking through the list, and I was like, that's a lot of services. So you've got Apple Music, Apple News, Apple Podcasts, Apple TV app, Apple TV Plus, Apple Pay, Apple Card, Maps, Search Ads, Apple's iCloud services, Apple's productivity and creativity apps. Those are a lot of services.
Just a couple.
So I'm curious, like, what does a day in the life of Eddy Cue look like when you're overseeing so many different services?
Well, first, the interesting thing, and I love this about my job, is that I'm always learning. Because there's so many disparate things, there's always new things that are going on. So I always feel like, even though I've been at Apple for 36 years, I'm still learning every day because we're trying to do all these new things that come about. And sometimes it's things I knew nothing about, but I'm good at hiring people and working with folks. So that's one piece. So I'm learning every day. The second thing is I've got an incredible team of folks that I work with, and that's part of the learning too. But it's and so what I try to do is to create an environment where they can excel, and they're generally the experts at what they're doing. So create environments where they can do their best work, and then I'm there to help most of the time, which is okay when there's problems, and I can help in different ways, either experience or I can help with talent sometimes. I can help, I was just at one of the biggest financial institution board meetings talking about what Apple's trying to do with Apple Pay. And so those types of things. And then the third thing is help make some of the biggest decisions, right? What are the next big things or features? And so one of my favorite things that I get to do is to see the new products and help decide what those new products are. And the beauty of Apple, it's not just in services, but we work really like one cohesive team. So what's the hardware team doing? What's Craig and the OS team doing? And what are we doing with our apps and services? And so we get to do that together. And so generally the best way that I describe it is I have a lot of fun.
So I remember you saying at your talk at Duke University that it doesn't feel like you've worked for 36 years because every day you love what you do. And
yeah, I always joke around people because they ask like, oh, how is it working? I say, well, I work about 30 days a year. They're like, 30 days a year? What are you talking about? I said, well, the other 300 days I'm having fun. 30 days is work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that much fun. Something's going on that's not as much fun. But if you're lucky enough to find something you're passionate about, I think you've done that.
Yeah.
You love what you do, then it's great because it's not work most of the time. And so you don't want to go through life feeling like I get up in the morning and I got to go to work.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning, like this morning, I was excited about doing this. I was meeting one of my teams this morning here as well. And so I'm excited to get up. I was ready to go. And so I think we're very lucky in that. And I think that's what I tell people all the time. Find something you're passionate about that you love to do so that it's not work.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I think the balance you said, you work around 30 days because there's always going to be an element of, work. But like if you love what you do and you're passionate about it, then the rest of the time just goes like that.
That's right.
Now, you actually touched on what my next question was going to be because when reviewing tech, which me and my peers do, we always say that one of the unique things about Apple is the seamless integration of hardware, software, and services. And, you kind of mentioned a little bit about that. And it's great to kind of hear how that works behind the scenes and how closely you work with the other teams.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to it, by the way, is I think one of the cool things about Apple is even though it's a pretty large company now, it's hard for me to think of it that way. I still think of it as a pretty small company. We're still organized like if we were a small company. So there's not divisions. So there's not like an iPhone division or whatever. So for example, yesterday, even though I was in the UK, I was at our executive staff meeting where we have, Craig running software. We have John Turnus running hardware, Johnny Cerrucci running the chips. And we have a product meeting for 3 hours. And so I know all their priorities. They know my priorities. We know where we need each other. We're highly dependent on each other. In a way, we're accountable to each other too, which is, I think, really, I don't want to let them down, and they don't want to let me down. And so I think that's a pretty special thing, especially as the company's grown that big, because if you go to sort of you got to get an MBA, they immediately tell you as soon as you get big, you have to kind of separate the company out into different divisions. And luckily, we've never done that, and we can still function as one Apple for everything.
And obviously that reflects in the services and the products as well. Now, speaking of the services, obviously Apple Music, there is a lot of competition in the market. What would you say makes Apple Music unique, and why should somebody choose Apple Music over some of the others?
Yeah, look, everybody has, at the end of the day, you can say this, everyone pretty much has all the same songs. So there's not any differences there. But that doesn't mean that you can't innovate and that you can't do special things. And that's the mistake sometimes that people think, well, then there's really not much to do. And so if you look over the last few years, we've innovated in quality of the music. In the history of music, there's really been two formats, mono and stereo. And now with our surround sound, it's the first time that you put a set of AirPods on, you're moving your head, and the music, it's like you're sitting on the stage with the band exactly how they were hearing it when they're singing it. So we've innovated on the quality of the music. We still think there's a people part here. As much as we love technology and we use it tremendously, there's still an aspect of people that's critical to us. That starts with radio. We do live radio shows with real DJs. To the playlist that we're creating, there's algorithmic, but always with a personal touch to it always. We've done things that have been really cool with lyrics. you know, we loved music, so one of the things that we knew we sucked at doing classical inside of Apple Music. And so we decided, like, if you love classical, we should give you the same kind of experience. And so we went off and did a completely different application for Apple Classical. So I'm incredibly proud of the team because we're always thinking of new ideas that make the service better for our customers and listeners. And I think there's a lot more to do. So
I like that you said that, because it's always nice to kind of look at what's missing. And you mentioned classic music, right? So that's something that's lacking, and working on improving that as well. So it's great to hear that you acknowledge that and, you know, work on it.
You know, it's great because it's part of the DNA of Apple. Even before, you know, I've been there for a long time, but even before I started, if you go back, MIDI, which was the interface between instruments and a personal computer, came about with an Apple II. And you go back to Steve when he was running the company, and he talks about the fact of how music shaped his life. So there's always been something about music that's been near and dear to Apple. And I think that's been there from the very early days of the company till today. And so we still feel we care deeply about it.
Speaking of another service, Apple TV Plus, I was actually at the launch event that was the first time I was at
Apple
Park, and it was amazing. And it's crazy to think that it's been 5 years. Again, with TV streaming, there are so many options, and you know, I have so many subscriptions right now, and it's like endless. And people are sort of, like, you know, focusing more on, like, okay, let's cut down and stick to quality. You know, what would you say makes Apple TV Plus stand out?
Yeah, look, I think people will always subscribe to more than one. You know, how many? This is always a question, but we felt like there was a place to not be the most, but be the best. And so in my history, when I was growing up, there were other services or other channels that were viewed that way. And I think there's been a big rush to quantity, and because you try to fill every genre, you know, every need of whether it's kids programming to comedy and our view around this was, if you create a great comedy, it's for everyone. If you create a great drama, it can be for everyone. It's just, it's really hard.
Yeah. It's
hard to be really great. And so we thought there was an opportunity in the market to do that because everyone seemed to be running in different directions. And so we got very lucky. We've hired, I mean, you have to remember, we didn't know a lot about making TV shows and movies, but we've put together what is, I think, one of the best teams in the world today. And I'm really proud that in the 5-year period, starting with zero movies, 0 TV shows, no library. We don't go out and license, you know, existing content. We work and create it all from scratch. And I think I'm really proud of the work that they've done, from, you know, Severance to winning a Best Picture Oscar for Coda, to obviously Ted Lasso, to right now I think one of the best shows we've done is on right now with Presumed Innocent. And so the team's done a really incredible job.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me personally, Apple TV Plus, it's like, I'd say quality over quantity. There's not everything in the kitchen sink that's thrown at it, but you can find some really high quality shows. And at Dub we saw some previews of what's to come. I'm personally looking forward to season 2 of Silo. What are you most looking forward to?
Severance season 2. I thought the season finale of Severance was so good, and I haven't seen it, so I purpose have been waiting till all of them were done before I get to see it. But you know, it's the cool thing about content now too is that it's very global. So you have a show here in the UK made, Slow Horses, which is amazing. But our view wasn't to create a show called Slow Horses for the UK. It was a show called Slow Horses made in the UK, but it's for everyone because it's such a great show. Pachinko in Korea was made. Again, an amazing show. And so I think there's a real opportunity as well when you're trying to create great. It can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be from a specific place. And so, and you know, some of these shows, I think if I told you what Severance was about, you probably, if you did a 2 or 3 sentence thing, you probably would never do the show. And so you have to take some chances and look at the, you know, I think in order to be the best, that's kind of what you have to do. You have to try to innovate even in that world. And so these have been great great shows that have gotten people really interested and excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that we do now live in a global market. So,
Right.
you know, something that you're watching here in the UK, you're going to be watching in other places as well. And the same goes for like my content on YouTube. You look at where people are watching from, and you know, you've got US, UK, you've got South America, you've got Asia, and we now do truly live in a global world. So having content that everybody can see, but has its uniqueness in terms of where it's created is something really, really profound.
I think we have a lot in common when you think of the world. And so in a way, one of the things that we think these shows, they should work, because no matter where you are in the world, you deal with heartaches, you deal with success, you deal with love, you deal with problems. And so if they're done really well, it works across the board.
At DubDub, obviously there was a key focus on Apple Intelligence. Now, machine learning and AI have already been integrated into Apple services for quite some time. People just don't necessarily label it as AI. It's already recommendations, all of these things. But now with the introduction of Apple Intelligence, how is that going to change the way we use Apple services?
It's interesting because you always hear this. We like talking about the features and how things work, not so much the technology that makes it happen. And so in a way, Apple Intelligence is the behind the scenes, the thing that makes it happen. The interesting thing is, how does it make my life better every day? And so when you were talking about music as an example, and so your ability to search, to discover content while preserving privacy, while preserving security, those are huge, huge opportunities that we're going to have in music, for example. So there's something that's been around for a long time, and again, lots of opportunities to innovate. In news, it's all about how do we make your life better, make it easier. If it's in the creativity apps, then it's how to make it so that you can do incredible things with those apps with very few people or just by yourself, which is what we've done throughout our history with applications. So I love what Apple Intelligence is going to do, because it makes the product and everything that we do better. There's not a service or anything that we can't make better through Apple Intelligence.
So one of the things we talk about in the tech world, and like one of my friends, Marquez, always says, a magician's greatest trick is to make it look easy. And, you know, I think that sort of applies to when I make videos, but also with Apple services, that it shouldn't seem like, oh, this and this is happening. It should just work seamlessly. And that's what the magic is.
Yeah, you know, when it's great, it looks easy. But it's far from that. It's exactly right. It's the great things are very, very hard, and to make things easy. And with technology, you're trying to make it so that everyone in the world can use it, make it easy for them. Everyone's slightly different in the way they might want to use it, and have it all work is hard. But that's what makes Apple special. And I think the people that we bring to work at Apple, we have a huge advantage. Here's one of the advantages I think that every Apple person has. There are very few places that you can work where you spend all day using the product that you're working on. Your friends, your family are using the product. There's no excuse for not making it great, is my view. I'm using it all the time, so how can it not be great?
It's an extension to you now, isn't it?
That's
Like
right.
all of, like your watch, your iPhone, your iPad.
I take notes all the time of some, because I get ideas all the time just from an everyday, how do I make it better? How do I make, and sometimes it's simple things. I mean, one of my favorite things, it was done by, it started with an intern, was Find My iPhone. And look at where it's led to, right? It went to Find My Friends, to now AirTags, because you're finding your suitcase somewhere in the airport. It all started with the idea of somebody losing their phone on the couch. And this is a great example of one where you go, oh, well, sure, that's pretty easy. Who didn't take a genius to think that? But, well, nobody thought of it until before we did it. So somebody had to think about it, and then you have to go develop it and do it in a way. Remember the first thing is well, if you have your phone in silent mode, it better override silent mode or you're not going to see it. All of those things that take place. And so it's a lot of hard work, but it's all worth it.
And talking of, how everything is seamless and looks easy, I remember the first time I tried the Vision Pro, and it's something that you pick up so quickly because it's very natural. So you might think that this is a completely different format. And, we've seen other devices where you have joysticks and stuff, but this was like eye tracking and tapping your finger. But how quickly I was just scrolling around, zooming in, it was just very, very natural. And the Vision Pro itself is a completely different category now. So it's something that I'm sure you guys had to think of from the ground up.
It's interesting because in some ways, I think it's one of the hardest problems we've ever solved in some ways. If you think about it, I remember, I got to imagine the first time somebody saw a typewriter or the idea of hitting keys to type, which is, I think, the sort of the first interface from talking and writing was a keyboard. And it's kind of complicated when you kind of think about that, right? I mean, we've all gotten used to it, so we don't think of it. I remember the first time you got a mouse, and it was a little bit weird to move your hand and the cursor because you had to have this coordination around it. And then came the iPhone, and the ability of pinching and zooming and scrolling by moving your fingers was really, really easy. Much easier in a way than learning how to use a mouse or learning. And you can see that when you watch a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, right? They know how to move with their fingers. And what Vision Pro and the team did is they did it with your eyes, which is incredible, which is your eyes, like I'm looking at you right now, and I know I'm looking at you. And Vision Pro's, when you're wearing it, knows I'm looking at you. And then being able to grab things with your fingers, again, is a very natural thing. And so it's a completely new human interface that I think the team did an amazing, amazing job so that it feels natural. You don't have to learn. You don't have to remember anything. You don't need a manual. You don't need to figure it out. You just have to tell somebody, look at it.
It's funny you mentioned about like a 1-year-old, because I remember seeing this video once where a kid was given a book, a 1-year-old, and trying to pinch and like swipe. And it's like, why is this not working? Because these gestures are so natural. That
I remember our son going to the TV, walking up to the TV and like sliding his finger. And why isn't it changing?
That's brilliant, yeah. But it just shows how integrated technology is now and how easy it is and how natural it is. Whereas, as you were saying with the mouse, I still remember when I used to use a mouse and I used to do a lot of drawing, and being able to do that. And now obviously, with something like an Apple Pencil, it's a lot more natural.
The cool thing is I wake up every day and there's still so much to do. As great as everything is, there's always more to do. And so there's so much opportunity. And so it's amazing what all these things do today, but we're going to keep making them better and better.
Yeah, and we mentioned so many different products over the timeline, and I think the iPhone was obviously one of the key points in Apple's timeline. What would you say is your personal favorite Apple product? Like if you look back.
That's a great one. I tend not to look back, so I would always say the next one.
Great answer.
Will be my favorite one, because I like not thinking too much about the past. There's so much more exciting things to do in the future, and every future product hopefully is way better than the ones from the past.
Yeah, I remember you were saying that when you initially came up, when you and the team and Steve came up with the iPhone, the vision was for it to be like a full screen device like what we started seeing from the iPhone 10, but the technology wasn't actually there to meet that vision as yet. Yeah,
it's since you went back to history, the one thing I did do, there's great moments, and when you've been there a long time, you go back and reminisce, but I don't try to do that. But I loved launching the iMac with Steve when he came back to Apple. I think that was the beginning of the resurgence of Apple, thanks to Steve coming back. And so it was a special time from that point of view, because everything started going. And then the iPod, the first time we went beyond the Mac and Apple customers to a much bigger audience. And then the iPhone was, it's hard to imagine. So the iPhone's probably about 17 years old or so. I don't know how did we live without it? Yeah. Right? You think about how it's such a big part of everything you do, this morning, from taking an Uber to knowing where the meeting is, what time, where to go. Those are just the basic things, to a text message from my wife. And then you go like, how did we do all of that? Yeah. And it turns out you could do all of that, but it would take a lot longer.
Yeah.
So it's just become much more efficient and faster.
Because I always say, a lot of people ask in in tech that, is there going to be a point where technology is integrated with us so much where we pretty much become cyborgs? And I'm like, we're already here because, with your iPhone, you have all of the things that you can do. It's just endless. So
yeah, it's funny. I don't worry about that. I think this is about technology helping you be the best and be better at everything you do. But it doesn't really replace you, right? And I don't see that at all. But yeah, I would like technology to make me better and make it easier for me. And I think, yeah, over the years, we've seen a lot of that. And I think, with things like Apple Intelligence, we're going to see more and more of those things as well. But it's definitely not going to replace you.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing.
Look at what you're doing. You and your brother are running basically a television network, but not just a television network. You're running a television network around the world. What would it take to do that 15, 20 years ago? It would take, a worldwide company of thousands of employees, distribution to try to get, cable companies and satellites to try to distribute you. But we still need you.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't work. It's not like, the computer didn't solve this, the camera didn't do it, There's still the talent. It's empowering people to do amazing things. And so that's where the power of this thing comes from.
Totally. And a lot of people ask me, I want to start on YouTube and make content. What shall I buy? What camera? And I was like, it's already in your pocket, and we're filming this on iPhones as well. It just shows you how easy it has become now to empower yourself to be able to do amazing things.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I started doing now, I just happen to have I have two little granddaughters, my first two grandchildren. They're 10 months and 9 months. And so I take my my iPhone and I record in immersive video mode. And when you watch it back on your Vision Pro, it's like you're holding them again, and it feels like they're there. It's like, it is amazing. And so it's the same kind of thing. If you think about it in the past, we went from when I was a kid, Polaroids to Super 8, to VHS to 4K and HD, and now with immersive video, it's like, you feel like you're there again.
Yeah.
Like you're living the moment, and it's not like you're watching a movie. No, you're in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. It's a whole new category, and it's going to be amazing what we see with it going forward. Now, just got a couple more questions for you. We were talking about YouTube and the channel that we have. Do you watch anything on YouTube? And if so,
I watch a ton of YouTube. A lot. It's my personal hobbies, obviously, besides what's going on with Apple or technology. I watch a lot of videos on cars.
Okay.
So I'm a big car guy.
Yeah.
And so I even load up my iPad with YouTube downloads and then watch them on the plane. So coming from the California to here, I got to watch a lot of car shows. I've been watching a lot of retro gaming videos. There's a lot of new products in retro gaming that are fun. A lot going on in that space right now. And so it's letting you play some of the games that I used to play as a kid and that I love. And so I've been watching a lot of that recently. But it's awesome what's on there.
Is endless amount of content. Do you watch anybody on tech?
Yeah, I like watching stuff on new products too.
Okay.
Because it's interesting to see the reviews. I love watching the reviews of our products as always as well, and the services that we do. I download a bunch of stuff and I just sit there and hit play, and then it just goes through each one of them.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Sports too, by the way. I was watching the Copa America game highlights on the way here, and I was watching the Inter Miami Columbus MLS game highlights, so I was watching those as well. So that's another way to catch up on sports if I can't watch all of it live.
Would you see yourself watching multiple streams of sports on your Vision Pro? Are you that guy?
Yeah, there was a great app for the Masters Golf Tournament.
Okay.
And if you think about golf, the problem with golf is the action takes place all over the place.
Yeah.
It's not in a sentence. You can't put it. And so they did this Masters app on Vision Pro where you could have 8 screens up. And so you have the feed that's the main feed, and then you can watch Tiger Woods on one, you can watch the 12th hole on another one, different players, and it was truly amazing.
Multitasking at its finest.
Yeah, for sports it turns out it's great because there's another app I've seen that is on my Mac and my iPad for Formula One. That's great the same way. So you can watch the feed, you can watch the other one that gives you all the times and stats, and then you can watch a particular team or whatever. I watch a lot of soccer that way because I will watch multi-view where I put the main game that I want to watch with audio, and then I'll put the 3 other games on the side.
Okay.
On my Apple TV or on my iPad, and it's awesome.
Well, Eddie, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have a little gift for you.
Oh, I love it.
Give my guest. So these are a pair of the SuperSaf sunglasses.
I was going to say, I was hoping that was the case.
Yeah, that's there. So you'll be able to.
I was going to say, I can look as cool as you now.
It'll be great for you in the London sun that we have for a change here. So.
Well, hopefully I'm here all week, so I'll make sure we keep the California weather here.
Amazing. Thank you.
Really, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. I could talk to you for another few hours, I'm sure, but maybe we can do this again next time as well.
We sure will. Thank you.
Cheers, Eddie. We
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.